Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to the adventurous Vaughn Manor, where we have once again another thrill-packed episode of The Books That Time Forgot. Yes, The Books That Time Forgot, the amazing show where I go through all my books 2 boxes at a time. I've got a lot of books, most of which are in boxes, and I've gone through 20 boxes so far in this ridiculous show, and both myself and my good pal Roger are here once again, and we're both ready to go through 2 more boxes. Are you ready, Roger? Look how ready he is. It's going to be amazing going through box 21 and 22. But before I do that, I got a couple of books. Justin, from This Just In, an amazing booktube channel, and a friend from, he's an old friend, a friend from way back, Justin, got me a Christmas present. He got me this book. It's Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. This is a novelization from the movie. It was a movie and a TV show, Buck Rogers was. This novelization is by Addison E. Steele, which I'm sure is a real name, Addison E. Steele. One of the finest works from Addison E. Steele, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. It was pretty cheesy, this movie and TV show, but it was a lot of fun too. And this book looks the same. So thank you, Justin, my good friend, for getting me this. This is kind of a perfect present, actually, for me. And also, I got from Belgium, my first package ever from Belgium. This is a package from friend of the channel, Peter G. And he sent me, let's find out what he sent me. It's in a bag. Peter G sent a note to go along with the book. Let's see. Dear Mr. Vaughn. I guess he must mean me. Dear Mr. Vaughn, with this letter, you'll find a copy of my first novel. Oh, he wrote a book. Oh, and it even says Peter G on it. Peter G. The Look in Your Eye. Peter G's novel. That is Peter G there. With this letter, you'll find a copy of my first novel. In thanks for all of your great videos. I don't know what great videos he's talking about. I have some mediocre videos, though. I don't always agree with your opinions. Eyes rolling. Who does? But you certainly have opened my eyes to many books that I would not otherwise have known about. Well, at least this stupid channel's good for something. I tried real hard, but couldn't get anyone, agent or publisher, interested in my book. So I decided to self-publish it on Amazon. I think it came out okay. Cheers! Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Peter G. Okay, Peter G, I appreciate you sending me a copy of your novel. I will read it, because if you take time out to write a book and send it to me, I'll read your book. Why not? Peter G, The Look in Your Eye. Oh, he signed it to me. All the best. Peter G. Thanks, Peter G. That's awesome. Yeah, all right. I will read this. That should be exciting. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. So now that we've got my new editions out of the way, I'm not buying any books myself at the moment, but it was kind of cool to get some new editions here. I'm going to move these presents aside so I have some room to go through this box here. It's one of my weatherproof plastic boxes. And of course, the first book in here is a Robert E. Howard book, because I have Robert E. Howard everywhere. This is The Complete Action Stories by Robert E. Howard. The Complete Action Stories. This would be some boxing stories and his Western stories. His Breckenridge Elkins stories appeared in Action Stories. So yeah, The Complete Action Stories by Robert E. Howard. Pretty cool. This came out from Wildside Press, so it's a small press book, but a nice one. Then we have the Oxford Book of Science Fiction, the Oxford Book of Science Fiction Stories, which is really cool. And I haven't read this anthology yet. I should get to that anthology. I have read this book yet, and it was entertaining. This is The Supernatural Enhancements by Edgar Cantero. The Supernatural Enhancements. This was a fun book. I remember that being pretty fun. And that is followed up by, you never know what you're going to get in these boxes. They are all very random. This is a panorama of Polish history, which is actually pretty cool. It's written by a bunch of different people. And this one was available in a bunch of different languages. And it's full of illustrations from the various times in Polish history. And it's this is actually a pretty cool book, a panorama of Polish history. That's pretty cool. You never know, man, what I'm going to pull out. Like the Aeneid of Virgil. And this is the Rolfe Humphreys translation from Scribner that came out a good long time ago. That one. And that one is followed by The Renaissance and Mannerism in Italy. The Renaissance and Mannerism in Italy. This is a pretty cool book here. This is by Alistair Smart. Another cool old book. And I've got a DVD that got in here somehow. Oh, this is the Frazetta documentary. Frazetta Painting with Fire. It's a documentary all about Frank Frazetta. He is the greatest fantasy illustrator of all time. You'll find his great paintings on the covers of many old books. Many of my old books have his paintings on them. Then we got this old book. This is the Omnibus, Jules Verne. This is pretty cool. I mean, it has some standard books in it that you knew would be in the Omnibus, Jules Verne. It's got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Around the World in 80 Days, From the Earth to the Moon and a Trip Around It. But it also has the Blockade Runners, which you don't find very often. So that is pretty cool. The Omnibus, Jules Verne. Then we have the Norton Critical Edition of the Histories by Herodotus. This is the complete edition. They did have an edition that was abridged for some reason, but this is not that. And this was translated by Walter Blanco. I've never read Walter Blanco's translation of the Histories. I have it in this Norton Critical Edition. I like Norton Criticals usually, but I really don't know if this translation's any good because I haven't read it yet. And I also have his translation of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides, another Norton Critical. So that's cool. I probably will read that one of these days. Now, I also have this very awesome book. I think a viewer mentioned this recently in the comments. This is Before the Golden Age, an anthology by Isaac Asimov, edited by Isaac Asimov. And it has a ton of stories in it from the 1930s. I think it goes, does this go year by year? I think it might. Yeah, it goes year by year in the 1930s, all the way up through 1938. So that's pretty cool, Before the Golden Age. And it's long. This is a long anthology. So this is a mammoth. If I wanted to read this year, it would fit right in with my Year of the Mammoths. But I'll probably read it next year when I'm reading a lot of science fiction. I read science fiction every year, but next year I'm going to focus on it. I also have Excelsior, The Amazing Life of Stan Lee, by Stan Lee and George Mayer. So Excelsior, The Amazing Life of Stan Lee. That's pretty cool. Then I have just another old copy of The Red and the Black by Stendhal. You got to have a bunch of these lying around. And I do. Of course I do. And this is pretty cool. This is A.E. Van Vogt. A.E. Van Vogt. I found out recently that's how you pronounce it. This is The Wizard of Lynn. Earth was helpless after the atomic holocaust. Ready, pray for the worst threat of all, the invaders from an alien galaxy. This looks pretty cool. This author's really good. So this is The Wizard of Lynn. Got that. Oh. And here is a masterpiece of literature. A masterpiece. This is Feral by Bertrand Ruchet. Which is not how you pronounce his name, but that's how I say it. Feral by Bertrand Ruchet. I did a video all about this book. It is the greatest video I ever did. The greatest video I'll ever do. Not many people have watched it, but it's a masterpiece of booktubery. This is Feral, about killer kitty cats. It's awesome. Also, I have an old issue of Astounding Science Fiction from May 1955. I'm a little behind, obviously, in my reading of Astounding Science Fiction. But here's the 1955 issue, which I should read, because I've got it. I should read that. I've also got Zane Gray, 5 complete novels from Zane Gray, Westerns. Got his most famous Riders of the Purple Sage, To the Last Man, The Thundering Herd, The Hash Knife Outfit, and West of the Pecos. Those are some pretty Western-sounding titles. Zane Gray, one of Robert E. Howard's favorite writers, actually. Zane Gray. So there we go. We've got that. I will move these aside because they're not fitting in here right now. I've got Zane Gray, 4 complete novels. We've got more novels from Zane Gray. This is The Lone Star Ranger, which was a pretty good book from what I remember. The Rainbow Trail, I believe that's the sequel to Riders of the Purple Sage, if I'm remembering right. Under the Tonto Rim, and Wyoming. So we have that. Oh, these are pretty cool. Robert E. Howard, man. Gotta have a ton of that. So this book is published by Donald M. Grant. Donald M. Grant did a bunch of Robert E. Howard books in hardcover back in the 70s. And this is Hour of the Dragon, which is Robert E. Howard's only Conan novel, published back in this is the 80s. This is published back in 89 from Donald M. Grant. And it's a really, really cool edition of this novel. He came out with some really cool editions, all illustrated, these editions. Let me see here. Oh, yeah. Got Conan on the pirate ship right there. All kinds of stuff happens in this novel. And The Hour of the Dragon is actually my favorite Conan novel. So it's kind of cool that I still have that. I also have Jules of Gwaller, Jules of Gwaller, another Donald Grant, Robert E. Howard book. This is from 1979, is when this one was published. Illustrated by Dean Morrissey. This one is pretty cool. Has some pretty cool stuff in here. This has a couple of stories in it, not just Jules of Gwaller. It also has, what else does it have? The Snout in the Dark, which is published now under a different title. I forget which one The Snout in the Dark is. But yeah, this is a cool book. And one more of these old Robert E. Howard, Donald M. Grant books. This was published in 1979, and maybe the 89 was a reprint. This is Black Colossus from Donald M. Grant. So this has Black Colossus and Shadows in the Moonlight. And again, it's fully illustrated. Let's see if I can get an illustration in here. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. So cool old Conan books from the 70s. Those are fun. What else do we have in here? This is a very old, beat-up copy it's a wartime copy, I believe, of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. Very old, very beat up. You get a feeling that this wartime copy of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn was read many, many times in the 40s and 50s and beyond, I'm sure. I could get a newer copy of this book, but I really like this old, beat-up, well-read copy of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. That's pretty awesome to have. Oh, I knew I had these around somewhere. These are some Mickey Spillane Mike Hammer books. This is the Mike Hammer Collection, Volume 1. This has I, the Jury, My Gun is Quick, and Vengeance is Mine. I have all of these on the Kindle also. But it's good that I still have a physical copy of these books. So yeah, I want to read these books, actually. So it's kind of cool that I have these. I was wanting to read those this year. And here's the Volume 2 of the Mike Hammer Collection. I don't think I ever got the third volume. But this one has One Lonely Night, The Big Kill, and Kiss Me Deadly. So that's pretty cool. You just never know what I'm going to find. This is another classic of literature from my younger days. This is Frog and Toad Together by Arnold LaBelle, the acclaimed author of Frog and Toad Are Friends. This is the sequel, Frog and Toad Together. The Frog and Toad books, man, epic. Epic stuff. Next, we have Nordoff and Hall's Mutiny on the Bounty. And this is an old Heritage Press. Yeah, this is an old Heritage Press copy of Mutiny on the Bounty. They made some good books. I have a copy of The Martian Chronicles that they did, and they also did The Mysterious Island from Jules Verne. I think I have that one as well from Heritage Press. I don't know when they stopped publishing, but most of them I find are pretty old. And they tend to be illustrated, and they're really cool. So yeah, this is a cool old Mutiny on the Bounty by Charles Nordoff and James Norman Hall from Heritage Press. This is actually pretty awesome. I'm glad I still have that. Next, it's more Robert E. Howard, man. It's Waterfront Fists and others, Waterfront Fist and Others, the collected fight stories of Robert E. Howard. So this is just a ton of his boxing stories. Because I have to have multiple editions of this because he's Robert E. Howard, of course I do. So that's pretty cool. This is really cool. This is some reprints of old Spider pulps. The Spider Robot Titans of Gotham. Yeah, Band Books did a couple of these, 2 or 3 collections of old Spider pulps by Nordoff. Norville Page did the Spider pulps from back in the olden days. So it's pretty cool that they did that. I wish they did more of those. Here's another one. This is the Spider City of Doom. I think every one of these has like 3 pulp stories in it. Like this one has the City Destroyer, the Council of Evil, and the Faceless One. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. The Spider City of Doom, and it's a really cool Steranko cover. I think these are both Steranko covers. Steranko did some pretty cool pulpy covers, so that's pretty awesome. I'm glad I have those. In here, I also have an old copy of the Heritage of America. The Heritage of America. This is Readings in American History. And this one, I think, was the revised edition that came out right after World War II. It's very Go America Go, this one. And here is a book that I haven't read. It was recommended to me by Justin from This Just In. Also, he recommended this book. But others, like Criminale, didn't like this book. So I've gotten mixed reviews on All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. I am intrigued enough that I will read this one of these days. I had it, I forgot I had it, and here it is in this box. And the last book in this box went for 20 minutes. I'm hoping the next box doesn't go on for so long, is What Branches Grow by T.S. Beer. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Beer. What Branches Grow, a post-apocalyptic science fiction novel that I have not read, but I will read at some point. So that's pretty cool. So that's box number 1. Let's get on to box number 2. All right, I have returned. Roger is ready. I am ready. Let's go through the 22nd box. Another waterproof box here. This one's a lot smaller, so that's good. It won't take forever, I hope. We'll see. The Roman Revolution by Ronald Sim. This is pretty cool. This is actually a pretty good book about the Roman Revolution. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So basically it's the fall of the Republic and the rise of Caesar and what happens after Julius Caesar with Augustus Caesar and all that. This is a really good book. The Roman Revolution by Ronald Sim. Pretty cool. This is also pretty cool. This is the Mammoth Book of Pulp Action. The Mammoth Book of Pulp Action. How fun does that look? That looks pretty fun. Then we have, what book is this? This is Charles Palester's The Unburied, which I have not read. I got this book forever ago. I think someone gave this to me as a present. Yeah, the lady of the manor gave this to me in the year 2000, and I haven't read it yet. That's ridiculous. I should get on that 22 years later. This is The Unburied by Charles Palester. Charles Palester. Next book, Richard Matheson's 7 Steps to Midnight. Richard Matheson's 7 Steps to Midnight. This is a later Richard Matheson novel. So that's pretty cool. I'm a huge fan, obviously, of Richard Matheson. You'll find a lot of that in my books. This is pretty cool in an odd, different, weird way. This is 101 sci-fi movies you must see before you die. So 101 sci-fi movies you must see before you die. Have I seen, and I have not, of course, seen all of these, but I've seen a lot of them. I should go through these and see which other ones I need to read before I die, since, you know, that could happen at any time. What else do I have here? I've also got 101 horror movies you must see before you die. You know, there are some obvious ones, like that one. What have got? Night of the Living Dead. What else is in here? Mask of the Red Death. Carrie, of course. Everybody's seen Carrie. I mean, just some fun books there about movies you should see before you croak. Also have, now this is kind of a cool book. This is Whispers, The Voices of Paranoia. This is a book by Ronald K. Siegel, who was Ronald K. Siegel, PhD, associate research professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Biobehavioral Science at UCLA. This guy wrote this really entertaining, interesting book about people who suffer from paranoid delusions. And he's kind of full of himself, this guy who wrote this book. I remember that. And he looks like he would be if you see him there. But it's a good book. Creepy and disturbing. Whispers, The Voices of Paranoia. That's a good one. So there's that. Hey, look, it's more Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson, Shadow on the Sun, an Evans novel of the West. I guess Evans is the person or the company that produced this. Evans and Company. Yeah. So this is a novel by Richard Matheson, a Western novel, Shadow on the Sun. I actually have not read this one yet, which is shocking. How do I have a book by Richard Matheson I haven't read? Well, here it is. I got to read it. Now I know where it is. Here is, see, Robert E. Howard, he always got to make an appearance. And this is a book published by Project Pride from Cross Plains. They keep his house up as a museum. This is The Man from Cross Plains, a celebration of Two-Gun Bob Howard, edited by Dennis McCanney. So it's a book about Robert E. Howard. Little articles and things about Robert E. Howard. Cross Plains Memories. It's a cool little book. I got this, obviously, when I was in Cross Plains at the Robert E. Howard Museum, which was his house. So it's a cool little book to have. That's pretty cool. Now, what else do I have in here? I have the Penguin copy of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which I did a Sunday Penguin on a while ago. I've got Green Tea and Other Weird Stories by Sheridan Lee Fanu. This is all of his horror stories that are major. So it has Carmilla and all the other major Sheridan Lee Fanu stories in here. This is from Oxford. It's pretty cool. I like the cover too. More Richard Matheson. This is Richard Matheson's book Earthbound. Earthbound by Richard Matheson. This is a cool book. These are 3 novels of suspense noir by Richard Matheson. This is a cool one. The 3 novels are... Okay, let me see if I could find the 3 novels in this book. Okay, they're on the back. Someone is Bleeding, Fury on Sunday, and Ride the Nightmare. So this is a cool book. Richard Matheson's Noir. 3 novels of suspense. This is a cool one to get if you could find it. It's pretty awesome. We've got Mcsweeney's Enchanted Chamber of Astonishing Stories. So an anthologies, a Mcsweeney's anthology with a really cool cover. This one is edited by Michael Chabon. So you've got some interesting stories in this one. Now, before we got our new annotated H.P. Lovecraft, which is up here, we had the original annotated H.P. Lovecraft, which was annotated by S.T. Joshi. This only has a handful of stories in here. Rats in the Walls, At the Mountains of Madness, The Dunwich Horror, Color Out of Space, and I think that's it in this one volume of the annotated H.P. Lovecraft. But it's a pretty cool book. A little annotated book with some illustrations and annotations. It's not the major thing that is, but it's cool from S.T. Joshi. And of course, I have to have more annotated H.P. Lovecraft, which is by S.T. Joshi and Peter Canon. They both worked on this one. Call of Cthulhu's in here, Pickman's Model, Thing on the Doorstep, Haunter of the Dark, The Shunned House, so that's pretty cool to have. I've got an old paperback of Silent Running. I don't know if any of you guys saw that old movie. Harlan Thompson's Silent Running. Pretty cool cover on that one. Here's a book I have but never read. Empires of Sand by David Ball. I know nothing about this book. I don't even know where I got it, but I've got it. Okay, Robert E. Howard makes his appearance again with a lot of Robert E. Howard books in here. Okay, we've got The Howard Collector by Robert E. Howard, which is kind of miscellaneous Robert E. Howard stories and stuff. The Howard Collector. We've got another copy of Breckinridge Elkins, A Gent from Bear Creek, which are his Breckinridge Elkins Western stories. We've got Tigers of the Sea, Cormac MacArt stories. Tigers of the Sea. We've got Sword Woman. This is a much cooler cover to Sword Woman than I've got in the Sword Woman over here behind me from Del Rey. This is Sword Woman. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Don't mess with Sword Woman. Then we've got an old copy of The Incredible Adventures of Dennis Dorgan, which are boxing stories. You couldn't tell from looking at this, but they're boxing stories where he travels around the world, this guy, and has adventures. Then there are more boxing stories. This is The Iron Man, which has some of his more serious boxing stories in there. Then we have Black Canon, horror stories by Robert E. Howard. This is a good collection. I've got a few different copies of that, I'm pretty sure. And we've got The Road of Asriel. This is the last book today from Robert E. Howard, The Road of Asriel. These are historical stories. Wow, that took a while. Okay, guys, I'll wrap it up, but I will catch you here next week for more books that time forgot, and catch me tomorrow for Comic Book Wednesday. Okay, guys, I will see you next time.